Welcome to Game of Roses. I'm Chad Kultgen. Yesterday, I made a video where I went through this entire article on Deadline written by Peter White called Inside the Toxic Culture of the Bachelor Franchise as Crew Deals with Fallout of Bachelorette Pause Extent of EP Exits Revealed. And in that article, he basically calls out Claire Freeland, one of the new showrunners, relatively new showrunners that the Bachelor franchise brought in to clean it up and do better about protecting their leads. They brought her in from Bachelor Canada. He names her as the EP who made the decision to have Jen Tran sit on that couch and rewatch the footage of her proposing to Devin Strader at her after the final rose at the end of last season's Bachelor at season 21 that brought her to tears. Just completely wrecked her and gave us that moment where Jesse Palmer says, "Do you want to watch the footage back?" And Jen Tran says, "Do I have a choice?" I believe that was the moment that probably killed the Bachelor franchise. This article that I covered yesterday not only details Claire Freeland's role in that and Bennett Graebner's role in that, but kind of talks about how those two executive producers specifically created this toxic workplace environment. And now that they have fired, over 100, I believe, cast or crew members of the Bachelor franchise because they don't need them for the upcoming production of this season of The Bachelorette because they're not making one. Now that that's all happened, everything's starting to kind of shake out and we're getting a better idea of why this is happening and who's making these decisions. All that said, I got a million DMs yesterday about the comment section of this article, which I have read the first comment of. There are 65 comments at the time of recording this, which is about 10:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. That is 23 hours roughly after this article has come out. So I thought I would just read through them all and let's see what we've got, because the first one's a doozy. Basically what's happening in this comment section is it seems like producers, these are all, we can't verify if these people are really, Bachelor producers or have worked on the crew or anything like that. But from what they're saying, it seems credible. I'm just going to read through them all. They're basically fighting in the comments section about who is really to blame and what's really going on here. So let's just take a look. Here's the comment section. I went back to the very first one. So this one was posted yesterday at 11:50 a.m. Again, the article, as we can see here, came out at 11:30 a.m. yesterday, February 21st. And here's this first comment that came out 20 minutes later. The article, this is from Bachelor Producer. You can obviously make a username on Deadline, whatever you want it to be, and leave your comments. This article is a good start. I've been a producer on the show for several years, and Claire and Bennett are running the show into the ground. That's the first sentence in the comments. Claire and Bennett are toxic showrunners who know deep down that they have no talent and rule by fear. They refuse to talk to anyone on staff. They only communicate via email and have manipulated Warner Brothers by doing a good job of managing up and somehow convincing them they are the only ones that understand how the show should be made. They recently rounded the entire staff up at the beginning of an installment and asked who was working in the field and who was working in post, and then said we should all be grateful for our jobs right now because almost all of field and post-production is leaving the United States. So put a smile on your face, work harder than ever, and don't complain. The message was clear. Enjoy your job while you can because we're going to farm everything out. So put up or shut up. Glad that their lies and incompetence is finally being exposed. Claire loves to tout herself as the 10-year showrunner of The Bachelor Canada, but do 2 minutes of research and you'll learn they only produced 3 seasons of Bachelor Canada. She's no expert. Again, we don't know if this is really coming from a Bachelor producer, but Jesus, it seems like it is. There's some very specific things talked about in there. And clearly, I think the people who are probably most affected by this article and probably most likely to comment it are people who worked on the show, who have just been fired, and now they have really no reason to hold back. I think this could really launch a wave of people talking about the dirty, dark secrets of this franchise, of which there are thousands. All right, let's go back up here. Here's some replies to this one from Anonymous. Honestly, after seeing the women freezing in their coats for the rose ceremony this week, I knew production was falling apart. The only surprise here is that Ehrlich had already left. Jason Ehrlich was another one of the EPs outlined in that article. You can go back and watch that video yesterday if you want to know all the exact details of who all these people are. But I don't agree with this. The women freezing in their coats, but people are always freezing. They always take them somewhere cold. Not surprising. Ehrlich sinks a ship, then bounces or gets fired and claims he's the This is savage. How can you say this? Ehrlich came back to Bachelor, turned the ratings around, and launched a very successful first season of Golden Bachelor. Just look at what's happened to the ratings since he left. What about Ehrlich threatening Golden Bachelor Gary when he told Ehrlich, he didn't want to marry Teresa. Ehrlich will do anything to keep his job, including threatening the cast. He's a sleazy, greasy producer, always has been. Ratings tell the story. Scoreboard, baby. So you've got these kind of like two warring factions here in the comments that are like anti Jason Ehrlich, pro Jason Ehrlich. He turned it around. He left after he destroyed it. This is absolutely what I've never seen anything like this in anything, any of the coverage of Bachelor that takes place journalistically in Deadline, if you want to call Us Weekly and People journalism. I've never seen anything like this. It's absolutely insane. A non-Bachelor producer here says, this article is a good start. Simply put, the only thing that Claire and Bennett are good at is managing up to Warner Brothers and ABC. They have horrible creative instincts. It sounds very much like Bachelor producer has now made another account. The writing here is very similar. They have horrible creative instincts, do not engage with the production staff except via text, no longer attend meetings. Oh, and recently at the top of the season, they gathered everyone in person and said, with the state of the industry, we should consider ourselves lucky to have jobs because all production is leaving the U.S., so be prepared to work harder. Wait a minute, if ABC, no, this is the exact same thing. This is like a copy and paste, but it's slightly changed from this first one. Great morale for a team that's been making the show a success for several years. If ABC wants the show to be better creatively and rate higher and become relevant again amidst Love is Blind and Love Island, axe Claire and Bennett and start over. Couldn't agree more with this. Everybody who's making the main creative decisions right now in this franchise is making the wrong decisions. And I don't know if ABC cares. I don't know if Warner Brothers cares. They have, I think, in Bachelor, a franchise that can last as long as they want it to. All that needs to be done is the people who are at the helm of it have to care about the product they're making in a way that is conveyed through the product itself. And right now that doesn't come through. When you see that moment of Jen Tran being forced to watch this back, it's quite the opposite. It almost seems like, at this point we know it's Claire Freeland who made that decision. It's almost as if Claire Freeland hates Jen Tran and wants to somehow make her suffer as much as possible. And that's just what came across. And I think that did massive damage to the audience, to the viewing base. All right. So we have to now go back. Newer comments. These comments are laid out bad. As you can see, 65 total comments. We're just going to keep going back until we get to what is most recent, as, again, of the timer of this recording, about 10:30 a.m. on Saturday. Here we go. So the newer comments. Let's check this out. Michelle says, oh, my alarm's going off. My apologies. Michelle says, where is the change and creativity the Bachelor franchise speaks of? It remains formulaic, like most TV shows. Cutting the TV cord 3 episodes into this season revived me beyond just freeing up some pocket cash. If not factory made, like The Bachelor, too many productions have for some 35 years been depraved or mean-spirited or romance soapy. Well, I don't know if Michelle quite gets it. Yes, it is formulaic in the same way that baseball and football and basketball and hockey and any professional sport are formulaic. You play the same game every year with new players. It's a professional sport. I don't quite understand what Michelle is saying here, and I don't know if I agree with it. Sugar Plum has replied. Okay, here we have some anonymous posts and then some replies. Anonymous, I work on the show and have for a long time. I can confirm that the work environment got noticeably more secretive. How secretive? A lot of us found about The Bachelorette being paused from the 2/7/25 deadline article, and 2 weeks later, we still haven't heard a word from production about it. In essence, we were ghosted. But we've managed to piece together that the season was paused because certain parties want Bennett and Claire gone. Interesting. And in the meantime, people's livelihoods hang in the balance. Bennett and Claire, if you two are reading this, you need to go now. Your egos do not outweigh everything else. So the thing is too, though, like, I get what this person's saying. And it's I've worked in television for 20 years as scripted, primarily writing sitcoms and stuff like that. This idea that it's like, oh my God, a lot of us found out about it being canceled from the article, and then we still haven't heard a word from like the higher ups about it. That's how TV is made. The people who actually are in charge, executives and stuff, don't give a shit about anybody who works on these shows because the churn of it is so continuous. Shows get canceled every year, every season. And they don't care because you then have to, if you sell TV shows, for example, you then have to get back in line. If they cancel your show or throw your pilot in the trash or whatever it may be, you then get back in line to go pitch a new idea the following year to the same people who canceled your old idea. It's just how the whole industry works. I'm not saying it's good. I don't think it is. But that is very normal, I'll say. Again, I don't think it should be. Let's see what this next comment here is. If I'd been working on this show as long as you have, I wouldn't be hiding in the comments. This is from Sugar Plum. I'd have the guts to ask them straight to their face. Sounds like you're looking to blame someone, but maybe you're aiming at the wrong folks. If you really think these two can, a show paused, maybe get a show paused, you're more out of touch than you realize. Might be time to retire. I kind of agree with that. The decision to pause The Bachelorette, I don't like, maybe Bennett and Claire had some input in that, in some kind of higher up meeting that was being had, but they are not the ones who make that final call. That is Rob Mills and ABC. They are the network who orders the show into production. Warner Brothers is the studio that bankrolls it and actually makes the physical production. NZK is the production company that supplies kind of the higher creatives like Bennett and Claire. All right. Hey, Sugar Plum. This is another response to it from Anon. Crew members sign NDAs. Coming forward means risk of getting sued and being blackballed. These are hardworking middle-class people desperate to make ends meet. Some crew members even lost their homes in the LA fires. The industry has been through a lot, and below-the-line workers have a right to express their grievances without the risk of retaliation. Have empathy. People are hurting. This is a good point here. I don't know, if you're watching this and you don't know what below the line means, in every kind of Hollywood production, there is above and below the line. Above the line are things like your actors, your director. In some cases, it can be executive producers if they have like points in the show, meaning they get a percentage of the show's overall profits or a movie or whatever. And most crew members are not above the line. None of them are. I mean, everyone else on the whole production is below the line. These are your camera operators, your PAs, everybody who's actually physically making the production. And as this is saying, these are not primarily, they are not rich people. They are losing houses. They have, all kinds of bills to pay and stuff. And to just have your job that you've potentially been doing for 20 years yanked out from under you with no warning. And now you're reading these articles where it's like, well, it's because these two people at the top who are making bad decisions and making a toxic workplace, it's on them. This must be incredibly hard for everybody who's going through it. And I hope that they're getting through it the best they can. Hopefully The Bachelor will come back and they'll all have jobs again. I don't know. Here's another one from Anonymous. Sounds like some crew got a bit too comfortable in their positions, rolling from one season on to the other. You knew this wasn't going to last forever. The show is become repetitive and boring. New regime, they always clean house and hire their friends and known loyal crew. It's the way of the world. You're just the next in line to feel it. So no sympathy from this anonymous post. Jesus. Here is 100-hour work weeks. Is this show union? Yes, for the crew. Producer-based roles are staffed and non-union. That's where you get into some tricky stuff with what is reality TV. On Game of Roses, we've been advocating for a reality TV performers union to be formed forever, or for Screen Actors Guild, SAG, to embrace reality TV performers so that they at least can be covered by union law. The idea that, like in Bachelor specifically, all the players get paid nothing. The lead can get anywhere in the ballpark of $100,000 to $200,000. That's your Bachelor and Bachelorette. Everyone else on the show gets nothing. And then if you go to Paradise, you do get paid per how long you stay on the show. And it's not a lot of money. You can negotiate that price as well, as you can with your lead fee. But nobody else gets paid anything. In fact, they have to take potentially 2 months off of work. That can be so detrimental that they get fired and lose their job completely. They have to buy all their own clothes going in, et cetera, et cetera. So talking about, is the show union? No reality TV show is, to my knowledge. There are various unions like the Producers Guild, the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, but I don't think reality TV is beholden to those guilds. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's how it works. Here is Truth Talker. All these veteran anonymous producers serving tea. Get a life, you losers. The show is old and dated and stinks of entitlement. The show is old. And it is a little dated. Stinks of entitlement. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it's an interesting comment to make because for a long time, Lizzie and I have been covering this show now for 6 years on this podcast. But prior to that, we watched it a lot before that. We've seen every season. There is the attitude of the producers comes through the show in the way the players are treated and the way the leads are treated. And I don't know if it's entitlement exactly that I pick up from it anyway. It's more maliciousness. It's more the producers, it feels to me through the production, through what they are presenting in the document, that the producers want to control everything as tightly as possible, and anything that steps out of line with their idea of what this show should be, they will get rid of, including players who won't play ball. If you're in an ITM and a producer, ITM is in the moment where you're like speaking directly into the camera, and there's a producer sitting right next to it asking you questions and trying to get you to say stuff. If you don't say what they want in those ITMs, they will eliminate you. Because don't forget, it's the producers, largely Claire Freeland and Bennett Graebner, who make the final decision on who stays in the show or not. The lead gets to choose maybe 2 or 3 people to take to the finals, and they generally know who those players are within the first, really on night 1, but sometimes it takes them a week. They lock in their top people, and then the producers order everybody else, how they get kicked off, who gets group date roses, who gets one-on-one date roses. So if you don't play their game immediately and show them that you're pliable and you'll do essentially everything they say, they will eliminate you from the show. All right, let's move on. Let's go to some newer comments. Here we go. So this is Bring Ehrlich Back. Golden Bachelor was great. Golden Bachelor was great, and it had great ratings. But now we're getting in these comments that maybe it was Ehrlich who forced the golden wedding, which we all know ended in a disastrous golden divorce. Was it worth it? We don't know. And I think that attitude too, if that's true, that Ehrlich did try to force them into the marriage, I think it's worth noting that for me, again, just what I'm seeing in the show, it seems that the Bachelor producers currently in charge, Freeland, Graebner, Ehrlich, whoever else may be in that tier, they are really focused on what they believe to be the elements necessary for a good season, and then they think nothing of the longer effect of what these decisions might be on the franchise as a whole. So they are thinking, we need a big villain, we need the drama, we need what we need for, in quotes, good TV, some nervous breakdowns, etc. And then once that season's over, fuck it. Throw them all in the trash. Next season starts shooting in 2 weeks. And I think that attitude, not having an idea of what this franchise is and how to steward the franchise into the future amidst the choppy waters of all these other new reality dating formats popping up that are really good, not understanding how to navigate that is ultimately what we're seeing now. They're hitting the rocks here. All right, sorry. So I just read that one. Here we go. It sounds like the crew got a bit too comfy in that season after season paycheck. You guys knew this wasn't going to last. With the show going stale, a new regime comes in, and we all know what that means. They hire their friends and try. Did we not just read this? This is just like a repost from the last thing. They hire their friends and tried and true crew buddies. This happens every day in our industry. It's just your turn now. Time to move on. Then Anonymous says, what a truly cold, bitter, miserable person. Generalizing the few with the many. There are hundreds of people that work on this show, hardworking, everyday people trying to do what they love. I can assure you that none of them got, quote, comfy, working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Those paychecks are hard earned. This happens every day in our industry. Why do we need to accept this a reality? I think as a reality, you keep going with the flow, pal. We will continue to try and improve our industry. I truly hope you find the happiness you're so desperately seeking. Just the subtweet. God, this is great. It's the best comments thread I've ever read. Claire's hubby has entered the chat. Okay, so we have these two anonymouses here fighting back and forth about, should we accept this horrible treatment? It's how the entertainment industry works. You got to shut up and just take it. I don't agree with that. I'm all for change in this regard. Bring Ehrlich back. He's creative, passionate, did an amazing job with Golden Bachelor. Imagine having to gash yourself up in the comment section because nobody else will. Trashing from Lonely Boy. This is the best thing I've ever read. This is my new favorite book. I'm going to keep an eye on this as more comments come in, but I assume the bulk of them are probably done in the day that after this article came out. Here's from Anon. This article reads like it's just scratching the surface. That is true. What surface, though? You don't shut down long-running franchises because the execs are distant or unfriendly and require name tags. What is really going on here? Perfect question. Here's from Anonymous. The franchise isn't being shut down. It appears leadership and creative-based roles are being changed out. I hope some of the BTL, that's below-the-line crew, are at least still considered for employment when episodes are being shot. Many rely on this franchise and have done for many years. Agreed. Okay, oh, Jesus, here's a big one from The Bachelor, quote, crew tells all. It's been 2 weeks and we still haven't received any sort of notification that we've been terminated. Bennett and Claire never once came around and said a word. No, I'm sorry about the news. The whole office cleaned off their desks and said goodbye, and not once Did they leave their office or attempt contact? Jesus, no sort of empathy, which they have none. Silence seems to be their thing. Look at the past. Guess we have our answer. Can confirm working firsthand they are toxic, sitting in meetings, not listening, murmuring sweet nothings into each other's ear. As a franchise, we welcomed the change. We wanted new ideas, but if you watch the franchise, it's the same dates and the same locations. Nothing is new or refreshed. Why is that, you ask? Because the showrunners do not run the show. They give zero direction. They wait to the last minute to make decisions. Look at the man who's been driving the ship and who's dodged allegation after allegation. You can't Google Bennett's name and not have a negative headline. He's pushed every producer out of the company. There's not targets left but yourself. There's nothing like sitting in a mandatory meeting with all your peers, and the showrunner, Bennett, stands before you and points out every department and how there's a lack of work right now, and we should be grateful we have jobs, but the delivery, you could tell, was from malice and power. Then there's Claire, new to the show, but fell for the power. Look at her franchise. It was canceled. Seems kind of odd that people were let go, and then your husband and friends start working for the company. How do you not work directly with the EP of Post? You're the showrunner. You give direct notes on the edit. Time to take your exit and let real leadership enter the franchise. Couldn't have said it better, the Bachelor crew tells all. Let's move on. I love everything that was said there. It's staggering that this franchise is a gold mine it has made so much money for ABC and Warner Brothers over the years. And I still view it as the Cadillac of the dating format franchises. It has been around the longest. They know what they're doing. I agree with what they're saying. It's the same tired dates. We talk about that all the time in our recaps. We saw this date in this season. We saw this date in this season, and they just keep regurgitating it. We have talked about on this very show, we did an episode called How to Save the Bachelor, which is kind of a franchise-wide, tips and tricks of what you should be doing to push this thing into the future. And one of the biggest things, I think, is to shoot a show from the perspective of the players so that the lead, and it should be a season of Bachelor, the Bachelor almost becomes incidental, and you show the audience what it is like to be a player in the game. What's it like to ride in the back of that limo? What's it like to meet all the players for the first time, et cetera, et cetera. I will digress, and we will continue. Newer comments. All right. Here we go. Anonymous. The saddest part of all this, the crew members who have dedicated years, some even decades to this franchise, people who were sold the idea of a Bachelor family, only to be cast aside seemingly in an effort to replace the showrunners and bring in a new, cheaper crew. We've always been grateful for the work, but we've also given so much to it. Time away from our homes, our families, our lives outside the show, and for what? To be left scrambling without work and without health insurance at a moment's notice. The showrunners mentioned in this article are not a reflection of the hundreds of hardworking people behind the scenes who are simply trying to make a living, and yet they're the ones paying the price. It's a shame. Perfectly said. I completely agree. Was the plan to tank the American franchise after Fleiss was kicked out? So many unanswered questions. None of the set drama that I read here on Deadline should be hard to fix. At what point do the unions get off their lazy ass and help fix the problems? Again, I don't think the unions are involved here because it's reality TV. And this might be, another log on the fire of getting some kind of reality TV union going. I don't know. There's a lot of talk of that right now. There's a lot of lawsuits flying around against Kinetic and Netflix, and now this is happening. We'll have to wait and see. From Anonymous, a stale, boring show isn't the fault of the 200-plus crew people that lost their jobs and means to live. They just go to work and do what they're told. It's because Grebner and Freeland are a select few creative up top chose not to innovate and then try to push blame elsewhere in order to save themselves. Anyone celebrating all those people losing their jobs is just plain sick or a disinformation bot. I couldn't agree more. And also I would say this. It's not like... I don't even think they have to innovate. I know this anonymous comment is saying they need to innovate. They didn't. That's why this is happening. I don't actually think you need to innovate this show that much. You just need to stick to the format, praise the process. You need to have 20 to 30 people dating one person in a game of attrition that's set in this kind of psychosocial dynamic where you have to play against the players and with the players and against the producers and with the producers. I like all of that. The thing they need to stop doing is squeezing it to death. Let the show breathe a little bit. Let the players do some stuff. Show us the moments where they're like funny and having fun with each other that have nothing potentially to do with what love level they're at or how they felt about this date or whatever. They have really strangled the show, I think, since the pandemic started. And we're kind of seeing maybe the final fallout from that. Maybe it'll even get worse. Who knows? From Colombo. So all this toxic stuff was going down while the union reps also hid in their offices? What union? What's the point of paying dues? This stuff is easy to fix. This crew should be working right now. What this sounds like is there is an active attempt to destroy this franchise without making it flaming obvious. I don't think they want to destroy the franchise because it makes money. Anything that makes money for these giant corporate greed machines, they don't want to destroy. But asking, like, where are the union reps? If a show gets canceled, like, I mean, I'm not saying Bachelor is canceled, but they have at least canceled this cycle of Bachelorette. There's no union that can be like, you put that show back on the air. Give these people their jobs back. That doesn't exist. All right, here we go. Take the red pill, Neo. You know what's amazing and rich as fuck? Every one of the Bachelor family crew here in the comments is taking no responsibility for how they played a role in the pausing of the show. It couldn't possibly be anyone else except for the showrunners. But it's not even the showrunners. I'm sure their involvement in this is some part of the decision, but this is an ABC decision. The level of absurdity and complete separation of them and show is compelling and very telling. You may not like the leadership styles of people. You may, in fact, disagree with it. But to sit here and blame without looking at yourselves in the mirror is shameful, and to cry foul because you're losing health benefits and income is not the point. Maybe the hard lesson here, folks, is that you're not guaranteed a renewal anymore. You have to earn one. Time to join the real world, Neo. Couldn't disagree with this comment more. It is the showrunners who make the show. They are making all the creative decisions in it. The below the line people are just, they are there to do what those people say. Put the camera here. I want that sconce lit up over there. You know, they're telling everybody how they want things to look. And it could be through inaction that there's confusion going on the set. I don't know, but you cannot blame the crew for a show getting canceled. Absolutely insane. Here's a reply to that. You speak like most of the general crew have any okay, perfect. Have any creative say in the show. Most are probably given a call time and show up and do as they're told. 100% correct. All right, let's keep going. We have so many more to get to. This is so good. I can't believe this. All right, common sense. There's a saying in Hollywood, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage, and all creative decisions stop with the showrunners. Correct. So how do you blame the staff? Where is all this new creativity the showrunners speak of? People fail upwards all the time in this business, and Claire's a perfect example of this. Ouch! Just old, stale ideas, no real creativity, no concept of forward thinking or leadership, only bad Monday morning quarterbacking and snark. Yikes! That sounds like somebody who knows her pretty well. Blake Garner. I don't know who Blake Garner is, but this is the first person we see by name. Bennett and Claire are among the most challenging executive producers I've ever worked with. They operate behind the scenes, orchestrating situations without transparency and deflecting blame when things inevitably unravel. Bennett, being closely tied to Mike Fleiss, reflects many of the same problematic tendencies. He's approaching 60, but behaves like he's still in his 20s. Claire presents herself as a kind, sweet cat lady, but her lack of empathy is striking. The hardship they've inflicted on others is truly disheartening and speaks volumes about the need for accountability and leadership and new leadership altogether. The company and its people are good, hardworking, talented people. The top of the food chain is where the issues lie. 100%. The fact that there's even an argument about this, to me, means the people who are on the side of Claire and Bennett are either Claire and Bennett using anonymous handles on this, or they are people who don't understand how TV is made. Okay, so we have some... Oh, wow, this is a long one. Here we go. This is from Bachelor. Yeah, I was there for the meeting where Bennett said we were lucky to be working, as he was referencing a story in the trades about the state of our industry. Bennett also went on to say, you're a wonderful crew, and that he wanted the franchise to continue so that we all can still work and make great TV together. We also wore name tags. I have been with the show for 14 years and still don't know 80% of the names. I found that helpful. Nicole Woods had been there since the beginning and also didn't know most of the crew's names. She also was widely disliked because of her signature Karen behavior and energy. I'm not sure who Nicole Woods is. Often injecting herself into conversations that didn't involve her. People learned how to tolerate her by clearing an area whenever she entered a room. I have seen exactly that happen with ABC executives on a pilot that I shot that was about my family some 12 years ago maybe. Finally, the reason why we aren't working is because enough above-the-line execs and producers who were fired or overlooked are coming for Claire and Bennett. The show was a long-time toxic, incestuous environment that recently brought in Claire to do the dirty work and turn the franchise into a professional production. Now that she's done all that, all the scorned producers are going after her and Bennett. This article is sensationalized. It's lazy journalism, and the author has used very little understanding about reality production. Finally, it's the people who complain about Claire and Bennett that have put Bachelor on pause and have changed the future of Bachelor in Paradise. FYI, Bachelor in Paradise had always hired the same crew as the rest of the Bachelor shows. There's no fact-checking, apparently. Interesting. Yeah. Huh. That's seems very much like this is a real person who worked on the show. Let's see what people have to say about this. Anonymous. Bold of you to admit that after 14 years, you don't know the names of the people you've seen every day. This shit is so insane. The turnover there is not a lot. The same people work show after show. I worked there for 2.5 years and knew the names of almost everyone in the company. No name tags necessary. If you truly have been to the franchise, this Bachelor crew, for 14 years, so this is coming from the same person. Oh, no, sorry, it's not. I thought it was the same person who posted it. If you've truly been at the franchise for 14 years and don't know 80% of the crew, you are among the problem. You choose not to learn to get to know people around you, and that's just sad. Everyone's names are literally written on their walkie. There's no excuse, so clearly you, like them, are wildly out of touch with what was really going on. You could have kept this opinion to yourself. Learn your crew names. Says, you were with the show 14 years and didn't know 80% of the crew names? Wow, shame on you. Anon, not married to Claire, says, since you have complained about the fact checking, I'll jump in here. Bennett never went on to say we're a wonderful crew and that he wanted the franchise to continue so that we can all still work and make great TV together. He said we should be grateful to have work at all. There was an awkward, deafening silence following Bennett's threatening remarks. One of the directors had to chime in and say something and complimented the crew to show some semblance of leadership. Something the showrunners have failed to do, as is clear by the statements in this article. Had they added that they appreciated our hard work, that meeting would have been very different. People are rightfully disheartened by poor leadership. I mean, it's seeming like that meeting did happen and they didn't handle it well. Justice for Bennett and Claire says, all these people blaming Bennett and Claire should realize they're just taking orders from Warner Brothers, Bridget and Dan, who will sell anyone under the bus to get ahead. Look what they did to Jason Ehrlich, Dan's so-called friend. Now Bennett and Claire. Bring back Fleiss and Ehrlich. I'm not sure they're ever going to bring back Fleiss. I think he is persona non grata. Hello, my name is, says, even with the name tags, they still got every person of color incorrect. Ooh, shit. That's a rough one. Anonymous then says, that part. As if anyone was actually complaining about name tags, everyone on set already has a name tag on their walkie-talkie anyway. The issue is their ignorance and microaggressions that cause the name tags. This is just brutal. I mean, it seems like, again, I don't know how many of these people are legit. Let's go back. Let's get to some more new ones here. I don't know how many of these people actually worked on the show. There's no way to tell if any of these people are real. Obviously, most of them are anon or anonymous. There's no way to tell that. That said, it really does feel like the things these people are writing are 100% coming from a very real place, that they have just been kicked out of this franchise that they've spent, in many cases, most of their professional career working in. Let's see what else we got. Every single lifestyle reality show is toxic and exploitative. Full stop. I don't know about that. And definitely not reality. All right? We know all that already. Okay, here's a bunch of comments. Get Real says, difficult decisions in a time of dwindling ratings, as you say. It sure was heroic of Claire to hire her husband and best friend as executive producers. Stop licking boot and have some respect for the people who actually earned their spot. Rough. Anonymous replies, clearly, they didn't earn the spot, and the decision was to outsource Claire. Also, conflict of interest hires have been a normal thing in this franchise. Quick one that comes to mind, Ken Fuchs and Sarah Jane Fuchs. Yikes, he's the longtime director of the entire franchise. I'm not sure who Sarah Jane is. Maybe a wife, maybe a child. Anonymous then says, Claire's husband and friend are up and down this comment section trying to defend an EP. That's hilarious. That has done nothing but sink ratings and deliver a boring product, as well as fighting for their own ill-gotten jobs by desperately drawing a false equivalency between themselves and someone who worked her way up the ranks 15 plus years with the franchise. Shameful. Anon then says, the entire Fuchs family is working on the franchise. Sarah Jane Fuchs, her uncle Ken Fuchs, Ken's son Ike Fuchs, and his girlfriend Raphael Quinta. Talk about Nepo hires. I guess we could verify that. We could look through the credits or something, but that's crazy. I didn't know that. And if that is true, indeed it is Nepo. Anonymous then says some of the crew lost their homes in the fires. Bennett and Claire donated $100 to a GoFundMe. Kenny bought one of them a car. That's the difference. A little different. I agree. The Snakes in the Grass says, here's the thing. Sarah Jane and Kenny have done more for the crew than Bennett and Claire combined. They've shown true leadership. If you ask anyone, they would stick their neck out for them like they have for use. For you, I think that should be. Unlike Bennett and Claire, who've proven time over who've proven time over time to be untrustworthy snakes and rude to anyone they come across that don't fit into their agenda. All right, so I'm just general name calling. Then Anon says, Ken Fuchs was the director starting season 2, I believe, and Sarah Jane came on as a production assistant, bottom of the food chain, 23 years ago, and has worked her way up and is one of the smartest, nicest people I've ever met. Any of the Fuchs kids have started as PAs, and there's no harm in that. And thank God, because they're all incredible at what they do. All right, so we're getting some defense of the Fuchs family here. Where do we start this? Okay, so now we have from Crew. I understand people defending Bennett and Claire in the comment section, in the comments, because this article is fairly surface level. I kind of agree with that, but it did its job and doesn't even begin to delve into their lack of leadership, discernment, creativity, taste, interpersonal skills, etc. as showrunners. At the end of the day, they were bad producers who stumbled their way to the top and then never figured out how to act when they got there. Ugh! Facts. Truth. ABC and Rob Mills make all the decisions. He wanted Claire. Oh my God, somebody named You Did Me Dirty. Fan here. Can anyone comment on leadership's attitudes toward the show leads and contestants more broadly? Because from watching over the years, it sure seems like they hate them. 100%. You did me dirty. You nailed it on the head. That comes through the show. You can feel the contempt of the high-level producers for the people in the show. There is some kind of jealousy about those people maybe becoming famous. I don't know exactly what it is, but you can feel their hatred for the players, or at the very least, their dismissal and glee that they feel in ruining these people's lives, or at least making them have a hard time during the shooting of the show. Let's continue. We have some more comments to get to. This has been one of the most fun things I've ever read in my life. All right. Who's protecting who? You may ask yourself, where is HR during all of this? The answer, all fired. What? And the head of HR is protecting Warner Brothers, not the people. Once you speak ill of the top, you become the target. We see this with whistleblowers everywhere. Interesting. I didn't know is this real? They fired Warner Brothers HR during this? Anonymous. Claire and Bennett are, or should I say were, the showrunners. So they are responsible for the franchise, period. The show reflects their biases, and it's terrible to think that they've ruined a staple of reality TV. Even worse, they've ruined the livelihood for hundreds of crew members with their childish behavior. Bennett, stop being a Temu J.J. Abrams and resign already. Claire, you should be ashamed for hiring your husband. You already wore the pants. Why emasculate him even more? Damn. Here's another one from another anonymous. Claire and Bennett were responsible for the franchise, period, and now it's circling the drain with livelihoods of hundreds of crew members. Bennett is a Temu J.J. Abrams. So this is the exact same person saying this again. All right. Mystery treat stealer. Thanks for this very detailed article. I've never watched these shows. What the hell? Why is this person commenting? But I appreciate learning more about them. While I wouldn't be sad if I never had to sit through another ad for them, I hope they manage to work things out with their employees. Well, very nice, Mystery Treat Stealer. Thank you for coming in with that. Chuck then says, you guys, the media, have been trying to cancel the series forever. Give it up. Ain't gonna happen. Interesting from Chuck there. Let's continue. Anonymous says, the culture on these shows is incredibly cruel. It's top down. There is a merit-based system on generating tears, alcohol abuse, and tricking people. It's the worst of the worst. That is correct. At least in the old days, producers were given bonuses if they could get somebody to cry. Now, I don't know if that bonus is still in place, but at least up until very recently, I've had firsthand accounts of players from the game being put in the back of a limo when they are doing their exit, when they get kicked off the show. And the producers will just drive around in circles with them for hours until you say what they want you to say into that camera. Here's another one from another anonymous. This is a really great article and probably only covers half of what has been going on. Not the writer's fault, but the fear of coming forward. Interesting. Another anonymous says, this is incredibly validating. I was so excited to work for the series only to find myself completely sidelined and unsure of my role. Eventually, I was told I didn't know how to do a job I had been successfully doing for nearly a decade. Whether intentional or not, I was on Comtech when someone mentioned, Comtech is like the little earpiece that all the producers use to talk to each other while they're producing. Sorry, where was I? I was on, find myself sidelined. I was on Comtech when someone mentioned in this article deliberately tried to get the star of the series to speak poorly about me. They then used that conversation as leverage to cut my contract early, only to dismiss it with a condescending TV is hard when I left. It's the most patronizing thing anyone's ever said to me. I'll never forget it. I'm genuinely thrilled to see these people finally being exposed. This is the thing about Hollywood. I mean, this applies really to any industry, any job experience, but Hollywood specifically. You never know what is going to happen if you piss somebody off. If you treat somebody bad, that person within a year could come back into whatever system you're in. If you're on a reality show or at a network, a studio, whatever the case may be, that person could potentially get a job that would be your boss or somehow in control of your livelihood. The best advice that was ever given to me when I was very young by a director that I really liked and admired, RIP, he said, don't ever treat anybody bad because you never know who they're going to wind up being. And I think in the Bachelor world, there is this idea that once you get to the top, and there have been other things like this, Ellen DeGeneres, that whole thing blew up where people were saying she made a toxic workplace environment. I think sometimes when people get to the top, they feel like they have to be mean to everybody to rule by fear. But the truth is you can't keep people in that environment that long. And when they get out and they get a job and they move up the chain, they may be in charge of what is going to happen to your job at some point. So I always think this is just like a bad idea to treat people this way. Anyway, Another anonymous then says, I don't know Bennett or Claire, but reading these comments, you all come across like bullies. I wouldn't want to work with you either. Well, there you have it. And here's another anonymous. As a fan of the show, I'm livid that whoever these people are, they couldn't even put a show on the air this season. That's like the most important part of their job. Get them out and get Bachelorette back on TV. Claire and Bennett did not make the decision to cancel Bachelorette this season. We need to make that clear. That was a network decision. And that's it. That's the most recent comment we've had. Again, from this article that came out yesterday by Peter White, Inside the Toxic Culture of the Bachelor franchise. Thank you for joining me to read these comments. I'm going to kind of be keeping an eye on this comment section, although I think we've probably seen the big bulk of the important ones. People have aired their grievances. But the story is just, I think it's going to continue. I think we are going to see some massive fallout from this. Obviously, we don't know what the future of this franchise is. It doesn't look good right now because once you break that habitual viewing pattern, it would be like if the NFL or baseball or basketball or whatever took a season off. And sometimes you see stuff like that happening. I remember when I was a younger man, there was a Major League Baseball season cut basically in half because of a player's strike. When that happens, viewership for the next few seasons is drastically decreased, and you have to kind of build back up goodwill. And I just think in an interim where you're not going to have a Bachelorette, people are going to be watching other reality shows, and they may not come back to this franchise as a result. We're going to have to see, but thank you for going on this journey with me through one of the most pleasurable reads I have ever had in my life. And like I said, I'll be covering more on this entire story. I'm sure we're going to be seeing some firings coming down the pipe, maybe Claire and Bennett. And if that happens, I'll be covering it right here, and I hope you'll join me. Thanks for joining me for this one.